Welcome to the Prosperity Playground, the podcast where business meets energetics, strategy meets soul, and prosperity becomes inevitable. I'm your host, Anna Lozano, mom, founder, investor, mentor, and energetics in business expert. This is your weekly activation to rewire how you think and feel about wealth, success, and personal power, because it's not about working harder, it's about regulating deeper, aligning stronger, and receiving wider. You don't hustle for your future, you calibrate to your higher self. Join me weekly for high-level conversations with the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs, creators, and thought leaders. True prosperity isn't just about money. It's about alignment, freedom, expansion, and embodying your worth. Welcome to the playground. Let's build your most prosperous life. Welcome back to the Prosperity Playground podcast. Today, I'm joined by my dear friend, Renée Warren. We were introduced March 2021 by a mutual friend, Diana House, who said, "You ladies must meet." And the rest is history. Renée Warren is an award-winning entrepreneur, angel investor, and host of Into the Wild, a top-rated podcast empowering women to step into their greatness. She's the creator of the Pink Skirt Project, where ambitious women come together to redefine success and rise together. Featured in Forbes, Business Insider, Entrepreneur, and more, Renée is just an amazing woman, mom, entrepreneur, wife, friend, cheerleader, all the things. In this episode, we dive into going from vision to movement, the birth of the Pink Skirt Project. We talk about wealth rewiring and rich girl energy and conscious marriages and the love behind the empire. Enjoy the show. Renée Warren's in the house. Welcome, my love.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. We met March 2021. We were connected by our dear friend, mutual friend, Diana House, who was like, "You ladies need to meet. You're both moving to Kelowna." And it's been like such a beautiful ride getting to know you. And I'm so grateful to call you a dear friend.
I love how you brought up that text message too.
I had
and
to
you
check
shared
back.
it with me. Yeah. You're like, Diana reached out to me, and I love the first question you're asked was, does she have kids?
Yes.
It's like your filter. I'll be friends with you if you have kids.
Oh my gosh, with my girls. So 2021, like they were young. So, you're on mommy duty, you're planning play dates. I'm like, I want to hang out with amazing women who also have kids because it's that connection piece.
Yeah, that's it. It makes sense because then the kids can play and the moms can mom.
Exactly.
We can chat.
I love it. So this episode airs post Pink Skirt Project, but we're recording a few weeks before. So first off, since we're in the future, congratulations on the most epic, life-changing event. Cue the fireworks. I'm so proud of you. Pew, pew, pew.
I love future pacing myself.
Yeah,
already seeing the end.
I see the future and I'm so excited for you. And I want the behind the scenes. So I'd love to dive into when did this powerful vision drop in for you? When did you know that it was time to bring it to life? And what are the most powerful lessons you learned hosting an event for 300 powerhouse women?
Yeah. Wow. So the idea was birthed, I'm going to guess, around 2017. I was sitting around a table having dinner with some girlfriends, and we were all chatting about what we thought success meant to us. And it wasn't my turn. It was coming my turn, but I had this very clairvoyant, drop in this image of me in a pink skirt on stage in front of thousands of women getting a standing ovation for something that we've done collectively. So then fast forward to 2019, I'm at an event in Palm Springs called the Alt Summit, which is for creatives and influencers and entrepreneurs. And part of the lineup is fashion shows because there's designers there. And I go to my one and only fashion show by a lady named Amanda Perna. She has a label called House of Perna. And she was on some reality TV shows. I forget what they're called, where they compete and then their models walk the runway with their designs.
Okay.
And I think she's still shooting some shows now. Anyway, I see the first model that comes out on stage is wearing the pink skirt of my vision.
The skirt.
It's like pretty much to a T. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do with this? So it was interesting, and I kind of chat about it, and I have these little conversations here and there. And then I was telling this story to a friend years ago, and she's like, well, did you buy the skirt? I go, no, well, what am I going to do with a skirt like that? And why would I spend that much money? And where would I wear this thing? Because I don't even think I owned anything pink in my wardrobe back then. So I ended up buying the skirt. And when it arrived, I hung it up in my closet, and it was the first thing that I saw when I walked into my closet. And it was like this reminder of what is, like, I don't know, like even to this day, I'm still defining this pink skirt. And then you and I came together, and we started to collaborate on this. And then we brought it to like this next level. We thought it was going to be maybe a mini documentary because you had an idea for it, and so did I. Then thought it was going to be like this series on maybe Netflix. Yes. And so we interviewed people for reality TV. We interviewed production companies, and then it wasn't the right time. Yeah. It wasn't the right thing. You moved to Mexico.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to put this on the shelf. It's not to say it could never become that, but in that moment, the vision for it wasn't that. But what came of that too was like a beautiful name, was beautiful inspiration, was like some cool photos you and I put together.
And I think this is a key piece too, is allow the vision to unfold and just trust that it will in divine timing, and still have so much fun along the way. And I'm just so in awe what it's turned into, because it's fucking huge and epic, and yet so different from the conversations we had a couple years ago about it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And even today, like every single time I talk about it, the story evolves. It's not like it's not changing, it's not morphing, it's unfolding. Yeah. And I knew that the vision for it would present itself the more I talked to and with the women that needed to be in that room and needed to be a part of this movement, because I know deep down it's not something that I'm creating alone. It's a community creation. And so what it is today is a one-day event that was hosted in Columbia.
That was epic and life-changing.
Yeah. And so and what it will become, I know will present itself at the event. I know will present itself at conversations and coffee shops and more podcast interviews. And then the vision for the 300 people there was no number.
Okay.
What happened was my heart was set on this one specific place in Kelowna called the Metro Hub. And it's near and dear to my husband and I because it's such a great community-focused space. And on the weekends, it serves as a church and a place to collect for people that are unhoused, as well as people who are super successful. So they come together for church service on Sundays.
Wow.
And we just loved how it's open door policy, and it's all about the community regardless of your circumstances. And I thought that felt good. So we invested into the renovations to what it's now become, the Metro Hub, where people gather.
Wow.
So I knew it had to be there. As I was going through the walkthrough for the event with the incredible lady named Penny, who, God bless her, because we've been asking all these questions, I turned to her and I was like, what is the capacity for the space theater style? And she said 350. So I said, perfect. I'm going to sell 350 tickets. Can't be that hard.
Yeah.
Well, turns out that's actually considered quite a big event.
That's a fucking huge event, girl.
I know. And so luckily for me, I've been surrounded by so many beautiful souls like yourself, big cheerleaders, and in communication with the lovely Lori Harder, which I know you've had on her show. Her and I have been back and forth because she used to have the Bliss Project, and she'd have like 500 women come out to events. So she knew the feelings that I'm going through right now. I will say, had it not been for me creating this vision, the event, and reaching out to people like Lori to say, hey, can you come speak on stage? We've built a relationship. And now she's been that person that's like sending me voice notes, like guiding me through these hiccups, or just being the support. And like you and our Tulum crew that we put together helping sell tickets. Like actually, because we created a discount code for you. I'm sure there's probably like 50 codes out there floating around. You have the most sales per discount code.
That's awesome.
And that just
I
goes
love
to
it.
show like people like you, Anna, don't just come into my life because you're just going to be there and then you're going to just blow away someday. You're there because we were meant to be in this room together, and supporting each other. And I feel that. And that has been such a huge influence as to why I wanted to create this event, because I want to support more women who need the more Annas in their life. They need these women that can see how their greatness and help them believe it in themselves. And so it's not just about like being more known or more influential or making more money. It has nothing to do with that. It actually has everything to do with being seen as a person that you are.
Yes.
Inside.
And being in that room and making those connections, which very well will turn into lifelong connections, and you'll become each other's cheerleaders. So there's a few things I want to unpack before I ask the getting in the right room question. But what were some fears that came up for you? Because it's like ignorance is bliss. You did not know because you've never hosted an event that big before. You're like, okay, this space looks good. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it. And then what happened? Like any fears come through?
Oh,
Disasters?
Okay, let me tell you
Let's
the
unpack.
rumination
Yeah.
that's happened for the past year. Literally, I'm not even going to sugarcoat the thoughts that have come into my brain. The building's going to burn down the day before my event. Some stupid rumor is going to go public about my husband and I, and everyone's going to ask for a return on their tickets.
Oh my God.
There's going to be another natural disaster and people won't be able to fly into Kelowna. Speakers are going to call in sick. Something's going to happen. I've thought of every scenario.
Hey, you know what? The beauty here, though, you bring it to the surface, you dismantle its powers. Like, thank you for showing up, and you are false.
Okay, let's just blow all that away.
Yes, exactly.
So, in speaking with other women that have hosted very big events, they're like, yeah, I thought about that too. And sadly, some of that has happened to people. But it's the risk you take. And hosting a big event is one of the riskiest things you can do. Like, I never realized that because we're banking so much on this day being perfect.
Yeah.
On this day being like sunny and breezy and birds chirping and butterflies flying around. Like, well, that's a 10 out of 10.
Right.
So yeah, I've thought these thoughts. And I think there's part of it that's a gift too, because it makes you think of a contingency plan. Now, I don't stay stuck in these moments. I just notice when they come in. Like I was putting on my mascara today. I was like, so if the building burnt down, where can we actually move 350 people?
Amazing, right? Worst case scenario, and then dismantling its power, and plan B. So where are we going to move if that happens? No, because event already happened. Remember, we're in the future.
Here's what I learned. Yes, we're in the future. Here's what I learned. That nothing bad happened. But pre-event, thinking of these things, I realized I made a list of all the things that made me anxious about this event. I made a list of all the things I hated to do. I hired an event manager. Her name is Jenny. She's the bee's knees. And I said, can you take over all of this? Turns out that's the stuff she loves to do because that's what she does for a living.
Yes.
So I don't do that anymore. I don't. So today we're doing a walkthrough on May 21st, we did a walkthrough at the place. And being okay with hosting an event for 350 people means that you got to bring in the right team. Because it can't just be you.
Yeah. When did you decide to bring in the team? Because you didn't have the team from the beginning. This was the decision after you made the list of all the things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant.
So we did substantial chunk of the work already. So we hired Jenny and I just said, listen, we got to be and I say we because it's Anita and I, we're co-hosting. We got to be the talent. We can't be the people that are worried about that so-and-so doesn't have their name tag or one of the toilets is clogged. We can't be that person. So we created the whole structure, the whole system of Jenny is the go-to for everybody. She manages the volunteers and all the people, and that she can talk to our assistants if there's something that needs to be brought up to Anita or I.
Amazing.
The only person that's allowed to talk to me or have any questions is Morgan, my assistant, for the entire day.
Huge. I love that.
So and there's part of this when I actually drew it out, I sketched it. It could actually be in this book I'm looking at right now. I said, wow, I feel so entitled. Those feelings. I feel so entitled or so privileged to have this help. And when that thought came in, I released it because I realized that, wait, no, we paid for this help. That means that we've hired other women that we're helping them succeed as entrepreneurs because of this.
Yeah.
So there's no shame.
There's no shame. And
There's no shame.
applies to events, it applies to whatever business you're growing, you're building, is make a list of all the things that bring up frustration, anxiety, maybe procrastination, and outsource it, because you're staying in your zone of genius and supporting others to be in theirs. Why do we make this such a big deal?
Well, and here's the thing is most of the time, these people end up doing a way better job. She had all these questions, and then she found loopholes in contracts, and she found things that we were missing. And it's like it can't run the way we envisioned without that support. And she's saving us so much time and money because of it. So the leader, the CEO, sets the vision, says, this is what it's supposed to look like. Here's a 10 out of 10. And then you find the people that can believe in that vision, see it through so that you can focus on the things that you're really good at.
So good. So good. So I use a mantra that actually my psychic who's on retainer, who gave me like this years ago, is I am at the right place at the right time with the right people always. And that is something that's on repeat for me behind the scenes. So let's talk about the power of getting in the rooms, masterminds, events, building the network and connection. And soulfully, this isn't like, I'm going to get to know this person so I can get X, Y out of them. Like, this is like true soulful connection, which this event is all about.
I talk a lot about transactional versus transformational relationships. And I've just have a second sense to people that are coming into my life for transactional purposes. And sometimes people don't know that they're doing this. If I feel comfortable enough, I'll bring it to light. But most of the time, it's really in everybody's best interest to be friends with people that help provide transformational relationships. I feel that with you 100%. I feel that with a lot of the crew that we've put together. But getting in the room, if there's one thing you're going to do in business to be successful, the only thing you need to do is to be in that room. Yeah. And I mean like physically buy a plane ticket, get on the plane, rent a hotel room, and go and be in the rooms for conferences, for masterminds, retreats. Because you need to, in order to connect with people on a deeper level, is to physically be around them.
Yeah.
That's why you and I put together our Tulum retreat. We brought in how many? 11 of us.
Yeah.
Most of these women.
Let me give a background on this because this was epic. So we were out for a hike, Kelowna, last summer, and you had already hosted 2 masterminds. And I like grabbed you. I'm like, Renee, we have to do this in Tulum in Mexico. And right away you're like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And
you're like, and you've been bugging me. You're like, come to Mexico.
I know.
And I was like, yes, as long as I can bring 10 other people with me.
But the most beautiful thing is because you're such an incredible human, 10 women said yes, like within a couple of days. The right women who you wanted to be at the retreat. I said, I'll take care of the background. I'll take care of the operations.
Awesome.
I'm like, bring the women.
Here's the thing. It just all worked out without a hitch. And I mean, the hardest part was actually transferring you money for the deposit for the place. It's almost like God are like, here are the people that need to be there and need to come together. Some of them you knew, some of them you didn't. I was the person that knew everybody.
Yes.
But every single person I asked said yes right away. There was a couple people that had to back out last minute for some personal reasons, totally fine. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we know those were the women that were meant to be in that room. And let me tell you the transformation that happened. I had messages from certain women saying, hey, Renee, because of some conversations I had, I know my business is going to make an extra $900,000 this year.
So good.
2 of these women have gone off and done separate, in-depth, like 4-day one-on-one individual coaching masterminds. There's women connecting for businesses, going on each other's podcasts. Yes. You can't do that if you're not physically together.
Yeah. Pure magic.
So imagine like amplifying that to 300, 350 women in a room saying, go make friends, be uncomfortable, introduce yourself, because That's how you're going to make the transformation in your life. You get to show up in this room or any room, but specifically Pink Skirt Project. And these women can have that transformation because they're going to say, hey, you talked about infertility and I'm actually going through this right now. Can we jam? Or, you talked about AI creating processes for your business that saved you 6 hours a week. How'd you do that? Yeah. Tell me all the stuff you use. That's the point. It's showing up with like 1 or 2 things in your life you need to transform, finding the room to be in, getting in that room, and also nurturing that relationship. Like you and I have been buddies now for how many years? 4 years?
Yeah, 4.
Yeah. And I've seen you through your exit. You've seen me through mine. Yeah. I've seen you through moving and all this stuff. And it's like we would not have had that relationship had we not met.
Yeah.
In person.
And I have to say also the Prosperity Playground brand and podcast exists because of that mastermind. I felt so seen, and I had known personally a few of you, and then I got to meet the other women that you brought to the mastermind in Tulum. And just being seen by women who hold space for you, everything you're moving through, and saying like, you're ready for your next chapter. Like that gave me the fire, the fuel to build this brand. And the vision that I hold for this brand is astronomical. And so start your own masterminds, pay for the masterminds, get in the rooms, get in the conferences, be at the next Pink Skirt project that will be announced or was announced.
It was announced.
That's right. Announced. So another thing that I really want to chat to you about is something that you said on your podcast, and it was that most entrepreneurs will never reach their dream revenue goals because of a hidden tax that they're paying, which is the bullshit stories that are playing on repeat behind the scenes. So I'd love to dive into the wealth mindset and some of the essential shifts you made to go from struggling, and I'm doing quotes, Renee, to multi-million-dollar Renee.
It's rich girl energy.
Yeah.
And I talk about this, and I used to be so ashamed to be seen. And like, I remember the story when my husband bought his first supercar. It was an iconic orange McLaren.
Oh yeah, I know that baby.
570S. If you know anything about supercars. And at the time, as we know it, it was the only McLaren in our province. We were living in New Brunswick. So it got a lot of attention. And I had already positioned middle-aged men who drive supercars as douchebags.
You in your mind.
Yep. In my mind, as like, they're all douchebags. They all take advantage of people. If you have enough money to afford a supercar, how dare you not be giving that to charity? It's so selfish. Can you believe that? Wow. So I would refuse to go for car rides with Dan. And I remember the first road trip we took, we went down to Maine. It was an 8-hour drive. The whole way down, there was people looking at the car, and I was hiding my face. And like, this car stands out.
Yeah,
the doors open like wings up. Like, so we pull up to downtown Bar Harbor, Maine, and it's kind of bumping, and there's all these kids, and we go to step out, and the doors open up, and they're like taking pictures. And I said to myself, this is absurd. I'm getting attention for the wrong thing.
Wow.
I'm getting attention because of this car that's significant. Meanwhile, Dan's all proud of himself, and he's smiling, and he's letting the kids sit in the car, and I would always walk away. And so I thought,
can I just add, you also look like a supermodel. You're like 6 feet tall, blonde, gorgeous, you know?
Do you know like Dan's biggest dream? Like his I don't want to say fetish at all, but he's like, I always picture you driving my cars. And my favorite moment is when you step out of the car.
I love it.
Yeah, baby. So I needed to work on this.
Wow.
Because when I looked at Dan, I was like, wait, Dan's not a douchebag whatsoever. And Dan actually gives back to the community. We give back to the community. My favorite day of 2024 was when we walked around to 4 charities and organizations in Kelowna, BC, and donated $250,000, like big fat checks. Yeah. And I said, wait a second. Yeah. This is what being rich means. This is what proper wealth means, is to be able to give back to the people who need it right now. Yeah. It's not a handout, it's a hand up. So when I changed my perspective and I really tapped into this rich girl energy, I'm like, wait a second, I do want that Chanel bag. Wow. And I'm going to request it.
Amazing.
And it appeared. So like, to go back to your question about the tax that we pay, the tax that we pay is we don't believe that we're the person that deserves to be at that level, whatever that is. So the tax I was paying was playing small for the Pink Skirt Project, because people said, why didn't you just start with 30-person event or a 50-person event? And so it would make me feel smaller, and I would say, you're right, I should have made this smaller. But instead I went straight for the big event.
Yeah.
Because I was so confident that I could achieve this, because I guess it's like future paced my vision of what it would look like to know that not only do I deserve to be in that room and create something epic, but everybody else who's attending deserves to be there.
Yeah. That's huge. And you went big. So you expanded your own capacity. You expanded your nervous system. You expanded your mindset. And you are holding something huge. And so the ripple of that is going to be, 10,000 fold compared to if you just had 30 women in the room. So I think for anyone listening too is like, you got to move your asses. Like, just do the thing, go for the vision, go for the dream, because on the other side, you get to do all of these things. You get to have this impact. And I truly believe that big wealth, not just like okay wealth, like big fucking wealth in the hands of epic women like yourself, like myself, like the women listening to this podcast, is going to change the world. It's going to have massive impact because women are natural givers. We're generous. We love supporting and bringing others with us. So why the fuck not? So I want to chat about what else do you get to do, because you get to hold this wealth now and you get to do it with this unshakable confidence of like, yeah, I'm worthy and so are you, and let's do this together.
I think the big thing that comes up too is, if you respect money, it comes with a lot of responsibility. Yeah. Because you can easily just lose yourself in it. You can easily just subscribe to this lifestyle, and which I think it's fine. Like, what you do with your money is nobody else's business. But also there is responsibility in it. Responsibility that you're not going to just piss it all away. Responsibility for the next generation, to teach your kids on what this means and to raise unentitled children as well. Yeah. Like my 12-year-old son, he's turning 13 this year. He's the only kid in his class who doesn't have a cell phone.
I love that.
It's not because we can't afford it. Yeah. It's out of principle, because he needs to earn it. Yeah. And he's slowly earning it. So the responsibility also comes in, how can you help impact your community or the people in your network with this money? And it's not about handouts. Like, we get hit up all the time for handouts. Mm. It's also, the more wealth that you generate, naturally your network starts to grow. Mm-hmm. And it's like, who can you connect in within the network to help each other out? For instance, there's a really incredible organization based out of Kelowna here they're going through this interesting time, and they hit us up for another donation, of which we contributed last year. And I said, hey, there's a bunch of people that donated last year. I thought this was supposed to bring you through to the end of this year. What's up? Yeah. And she's like, I realized I'm not the best at running the organization the way it is to make money sustainably. I'm really good at this part. Wow. So I said, how about this? Instead of me writing you a check, I will introduce you to somebody who I know has helped Ronald McDonald House raise millions and millions of dollars, and other organizations do this professionally. I made that connection.
Beautiful.
And she got back to me and she said, hey, Renee, that's probably the most important conversation I've ever had for the life of my organization. Anybody can do this. You don't have to be wealthy, but it's really about understanding what is the outcome they're trying to achieve and then putting the right people in place. But obviously, if you're in a position where you can help with the donations, with the organizations, with that influence, then do it. Mm-hmm. Most people don't believe they deserve it. And a lot of people think that it's selfish. I remember coaching a woman one time. She wanted to become a doula. And her entire network, her family, her friends, all lived low income. So the most that anybody in her family ever made was like $50,000 a year. Yeah. So we sat down and I was like, what's the outcome of this opportunity for you? She said, well, I want to make maybe like $40,000 to $45,000 a year. I said, what about $1 million? Imagine let's just envision what $1 million would feel like. What does that mean to you? Yeah. And she turned to me and said, that is so selfish. What would I do with $1 million?
Wow.
I go, I'll tell you what. You make $1 million and then you cut yourself a check for 50,000 and you give the rest away. And that's when a light bulb went off in her head.
Wow.
Like nobody even has to know that she made $1 million, but now she has this opportunity to help fund organizations, school programs, help fund the whole like doula department at a hospital because of it.
I love this.
So it's not about the stigma that comes with creating wealth. Like we need to just get rid of that. Let's dismantle that. It's really about the impact you can create because of access to resources.
Yes. That's huge.
Money can solve almost every single problem.
Yeah, in this world we're living in, absolutely. So if someone's listening to this and like is thinking, I want this. So for myself, I grew up in a Polish immigrant family. There was a lot of struggle. There was a lot of hustle. There was a lot of deep-rooted programming around money and wealth. And, you know, early stages of my entrepreneurial career, I would make a lot of money and I would somehow lose a lot of money. It would just disappear. It was a lot of self-sabotage that was kicking in because of my ceiling that could only handle feeling safe around X amount of money. There was a threshold. So what are some ways that people can begin that you've witnessed work? Like this was a huge paradigm shift that you just took us through to rewire our brain for abundance, for wealth, because we know the end outcome is a lot of impact, but we need to do the first steps first.
Honestly, the first aha moment for me was like that hockey stick moment of accepting my position was when during the pandemic, at the beginning of it, when we thought it was only going to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We learned that the school meal programs, because we lived on the East Coast in Moncton, New Brunswick, that the school meal programs couldn't be of service to any kids because the schools weren't open. Yeah. So then we calculated there were 750 students that were not going to eat.
Wow.
Because they relied on those meals. And I said, well, hey, can we just at least cover this for 2 weeks? Let's figure out how to get the food into these kids' homes. And then that spiraled into learning about a couple other things that were just, we had the opportunity to support our community. Yeah. So we wrote a couple checks, and it came up to like $50,000. Again, this was a time in the world where nobody knew what was going on. And we thought this would just hold us over until everything opened up again. So I said, hey, Dan, why don't we actually go public this time about how much we contribute to community? And I'll write a press release. And what we'll do is we'll encourage other people who have the means to do the same thing. And we did. And I'll tell you the outcome before I tell you what happened. Yeah. The outcome was that we believe we garnered about over $2 million in people coming together collectively in their own communities, as far as like Utah.
Wow.
We inspired our, quote, rich friends to do the same. Mm. That was the point. Now, going back to the car thing, when that press release went live, there was a couple comments, one in particular that came in and said something along the lines of, that's all you're writing? You can drive around a supercar and that's all you're giving? Wow. So, of course, that went back and it fed my ideology of rich people being douchebags and not doing enough. Mm. So I was embarrassed yet again to jump in that car and drive around because I thought, I'm not doing enough. I'm not giving enough. Never once did I reflect to ask that person, well, what have they done?
Yeah, 100%.
And then I just realized they're triggered by something, probably because they'd love to be in that position to do it too. So the best I could do is just send them love and wish them the best. The biggest, so that was one of the big moments too, in realizing the impact you can have. Yeah. Also, the small daily grievances that occur in the people that you lose because they all of a sudden feel like they can't keep up, or they've made the decision to no longer be friends because they feel like we think they're not good enough. Yeah. And like every day there was daily grief from relationships and business and in family that changed because of that significance, like the significance that grew within us with our influence and our resources. And that hurt. a lot,
Yeah.
which was probably the hardest thing. But some people have come back around. The reality is we've made new great friends.
Yeah. And
We've also inspired family members to like take the leap.
that's huge. And I feel so the biggest piece in rewiring our mindset around wealth and abundance starts with that awareness. Like, what is the story that's running on replay? And sometimes you don't know until you start taking these big actions and taking these big leaps and getting into that zone of discomfort. And then also knowing that some people will come and some people will go, but everything, like I truly live with this knowing that everything is for everyone's highest good. And so as long as you're in integrity and taking those moves that feel intuitive, that feel right, everyone around you, including you, will always be supported.
100%. That's the big thing. It's like, and going back to this woman who wanted to be this doula, I believe it changed her framework. Now, it's been a while. I haven't really followed up with her, but her understanding too about what wealth could mean to her.
Yes.
Because yes, there are a lot of rich douchebags, but there's also a lot of poor douchebags out there too.
100%. 100%. And I gotta say, like, you picking me up in your blue Lamborghini and everyone staring at us was fucking awesome. Like, hello, I want more of that.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I love that too.
Fun. And this is the thing.
Yeah.
And I love, you started with modesty, and I get it. We're taught to not flaunt what we have. We're taught to not celebrate because it might make someone else feel uncomfortable. But that's not up to us. Up to us is our growth and expansion. And if we hold this paradigm that with the more we have, the more impact we get to have, and we get to enjoy life. Like that's what it's all about. Like I want to show my kids the world. I know you guys are embarking on a huge adventure. Without wealth and money, you wouldn't be able to do what you're going to do. And you're going to impact so many people along the way. And so it's looking at who are you, because money and wealth simply amplifies who you are internally. And so if you're working on yourself, then allow yourself to receive, allow yourself to celebrate, and enjoy the process.
That's it. I think also you can't forget to not let possessions possess you.
Yeah. That's a big one.
So,
I love how you guys share what you have. Like that's a big piece that we witness on social media too, is you have it, allow others to experience it. Can you dive into that a little bit?
oh yeah. So I think our supercar collection now is at like 10 or 11.
Love it.
And it never once was it just for us.
Yeah.
And how people use their things is none of my business.
Yeah.
And if they want to keep their Porsche covered with the dust cover in their garage and drive it once a year, that's cool. We're not those people. We use our stuff. Everything we own, we use. And we actually have a rule that if it hasn't been touched or used in 6 months, we donate, sell, or give away.
Amazing.
Because go through the seasons, right? From like winter coats. We just finished purging closets, and let me tell you, we had like 10 big bags of great stuff that we can give away. So it's all about using things and letting those like 10-year-old boys sit in a supercar and start it up and rev the engine, because who knows if they'll ever have that chance. Yeah. But what it does, it instills that possibility into them. Because Dan's story about my husband is he didn't grow up being fed from a silver spoon, nor did I.
Yeah.
But his story is very colorful.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait, no one showed me what's possible. I want to be able to show the kids what's possible. And we're actually in the process of launching the Martel Foundation. And it's all about supporting organizations that support youth services like youth mental health and housing and stuff for kids, because we want to be the people that can show these kids the opportunities that exist for everybody. And they might not have that example at home.
It's so huge, and we know how important mentorship is, and just that one planted seed can germinate into, like you said, the possibility of a lifetime. Even I see it obviously on social, but what we don't know the long-term impact these decisions that you're taking right now are going to have on these kids. And my husband always says, he grew up in Mexico City, and he says, if only I had a mentor early on. And I say that too. I'm like, if I had a mentor early on, because I know my character, my personality, my drive, it took me years to get to where I am. But if you have that mentor early on, the ripple, the impact, it's so powerful. So we've spoken about Dan. This leads me to my next question, because I love love. I know you love love. So I've been witnessing Dan, your husband Dan Martel, on social share publicly his beautiful, raw, inspiring love. I want to know, for you, obviously his amazing wife, for who
Yeah.
else, not his cards, for you.
Yeah.
So behind the highlight reel, I feel like you guys do this so well. You're such an inspiring couple. What are the daily rituals, non-negotiables, conversations that have kept your marriage thriving through all the seasons, parenthood, business, personal evolution, quantum leaps? You guys do
Oh,
this
girl, we were
insanely
not
well.
thriving. Not thriving at the beginning. I always say, and actually, Dan and I talked about this, I think this past week, but we started our relationship with divorced-like energy.
Really?
And we both agreed that if it wasn't for having our kids so early on in our relationship, because we were together for a year before I got pregnant, that we probably wouldn't be together.
Wow. Okay. I did not
And
know
we
this.
both held on, like flapping in the wind, holding on, about to let go. It's 2 times that we talked about separation.
Wow.
And we could talk about this now because we're on the other side of it. Yeah. So how we got through it was, we have a spiritual therapist. We've done all the coaching, all the therapies, read all the books. We were intentional about this working. Yeah. Both of us. We were both on the same page in terms of like, we want to make this work. How are we going to do it? So for me, it was the spiritual therapist. And I would say what makes our relationship work is how 99% of the work we do is on ourselves, and the 1% on our relationship. It has nothing to do with the other person. Yeah. And I actually have a podcast episode about triggers too, and how triggers affect all your relationships. So like what triggers you about your husband or something has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you, but we always project saying, well, it's you, because you never put the toilet seat down and you never clean up after yourself.
What episode
So like,
is
how
that one?
dare you?
We're going to put it in the show notes.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Okay,
I'll
we'll
have
look
to
into
find
that
out.
one.
Put in show notes.
Huge.
But it's all about triggers. Yeah. And then you can have somebody who doesn't care if they don't clean up after themselves. They don't care if they don't put the toilet seat down. So it's like, why is your trigger the one that's coming to surface? That's what you have to work on. The biggest aha moment for me was when my spiritual therapist highlighted that I was always 1 foot out the door. In my mind, I thought, this is too good to be true. We have perfectly healthy kids. We're perfectly healthy. We have a beautiful home. We're growing our wealth. There's nothing wrong. So something's going to go bad. So I got to have 1 foot out the door. That way
You're safe.
Yeah, I feel safe because my bags are half packed and I have my shoes on. I'm ready to go. And she said, well, you're married to him, so shouldn't you be fully committed? Wow. He's never done anything wrong to make me doubt that relationship.
Wow. That's
when I was like, oh, crap, you're so right. And then I'm like, oh, I felt so bad after that because all these years, he felt that I felt not fully committed.
Everything's energy. That holds a strong energy.
Yeah, so I went back and I apologized to him for that. What works today, it's the tiniest little thing for me in this season of our marriage, are takeoff and landings. Have you heard of this analogy? So just like a plane takes off and lands, if you are going to leave the house for whatever reason, going to work out, is you just acknowledge your wife or husband and say, babe, I'm leaving, give a kiss, and you just say, I'm either gone for the day or I'll be back in 2 hours. And then when you come back, you acknowledge your presence and say, I'm home. It's it. It literally takes 10 seconds.
Oh, wow.
And that is so significant because now it's like he's thinking of me or he sees me. You don't have to do anything else.
Wow.
So the last couple of days, I've been so grumpy, hormonal stuff. And I know that I'm not a nice person. And all the little things that piss me off about Dan the most have been heightened. It's almost like he's chewing with a megaphone to his face. That's how annoying everything is right now. And I'm just like, get away. So this morning, actually, I'm so thankful this happened this morning so we can reflect on this podcast. I'm sitting there at the counter and I'm like angrily answering emails, and he comes and he sits down. He's like, hey babe, you've seemed kind of off the last day. Like, what's up? And I was like, I'm busy. I need to send this email. And he goes, okay, this is funny. Max is at the kitchen filling up his water bottle and he's standing there watching us and he's kind of like, he's waiting for this fight to ensue. And I look at him and he's leaning in. I'm like, Max. And he goes, I'll turn away and I'll let you guys do your, he's a 12-year-old boy, right? And I just said, it's not a time to talk about this because there's too much to talk about. And then Max is like, okay, I'll go. And so Dan's like, I just need a hug. Perfect. So I got up and I gave him a hug and then he tries to like kiss me more. And Max is like, I will go and leave and go into another room now. And he just needed that.
Yeah.
And this has happened a handful of times before. And one time was, I noticed the growth in me was he was going to bed. And like before he jumped into bed, he was standing there. And I walked up to him and I said, listen, I have been very hormonal lately. I don't know what's happening. I feel like super enraged and then I'm mellow and then I'm not. And it has nothing to do with you. You've done nothing wrong. It's me. And I'm taking it out on you. I'm really sorry. And he looked at me and said, wow, like who ever does that?
Wow.
Nobody ever takes ownership of their bullshit.
That's huge. So apologizing, back to that, apologizing when we mess up is the most beautiful and powerful and human thing that we can do.
100%. 100%. One thing I've learned in being married to such a high performing individual does not, by the way, stop, full disclosure, there's no fucking off switch.
That's what I was going to say.
There is none. It doesn't exist. It's the truth. He's always on. Okay. Is that I felt compelled to keep up.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like where this friction began was he was conquering Mount Everest and he's like, babe, why aren't you next to me? Why aren't we doing this together? Trying to pull me up. It wasn't my mountain to conquer.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with this mountain. Yeah. I'm like yodeling over on a little mountaintop over here and I'm quite happy.
Happy doing big things, amazing things.
Yeah. I don't need to conquer Everest, but I need to support him, and he also needs to support me. We're not comparing the size of mountains. It doesn't matter. That's insignificant. It's just proof that that one's a little bit longer and a little bit harder than the one that I'm climbing. And also being married to somebody who's really open to understanding what it means to be a woman, like going through this hormone stuff. He's like, whatever it costs, get the help. Let me know what you need from me. It's like, so I have like doctors and hormone specialists and I'm on all these.
Yeah. That's huge. And you have, it's 3 men. Like you have 2 boys and Dan, like you're around
4.
masculine
My dog,
energy
too.
and your dog. Right. So I love that they support you.
It's so loud and sticky and they eat so much. But I will say Noah's my youngest. He's almost 12. He's very literally a puppy.
Oh.
And he still sounds and acts like a 7-year-old. Like he's still my baby.
Yeah.
And the little whispers from him have been like, he's my biggest cheerleader.
I love that.
And I'll tell you an example. And kids are a reflection of their parents.
Yeah.
We were driving mopeds in Bali in January. I don't know if you've ever rode a moped in Bali.
Yeah, I actually have in Seminyak. Where were you guys?
We were in Ubud and then Canggu.
It's crazy. It's wild town.
Yeah. So I have never been more stressed in my life. And there's 3 mopeds. There's 6 of us. So there's our friend Sam and Rosie on one. Dan took Max because Max is heavier. And I had Noah. They're having a blast seesawing in and out of like all these cars. And I'm like barely keeping up. I'm sweating, just like almost shitting my pants. The whole time, no one knows how anxious I am. He's holding on to me and he's telling me, oh, Mama, you're doing such a good job. I believe in you. Way to go, Mama. Way to take that car. And I wish I could have recorded his voice to put in my phone to just listen to it when I need it.
I love that.
But I thought, wow, like where does he get this from?
From you.
It's just
from you
so
both.
beautiful. Probably. But yeah, kids and significant others hold up the biggest mirror.
Yeah.
And we used to like yell at our kids because, we'd not parented before. We had everything was new for us.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going on. And our default was to just yell, let it all out. We don't yell anymore.
Yeah.
Like we do not yell. I'll get frustrated, and sometimes I won't be nice, but we don't yell.
Yeah.
We don't bring that energy. And I don't know if there's any parents listening that have especially younger kids, but when you have that anxious energy, and even though you're really trying to be cool, calm, and collected, and you walk into the room, they can feel it. They can sense it. And they turn into your energy.
Yeah.
And so the most important thing we can do as parents and as partners is to work on ourselves, to be able to be the best version of ourselves in those moments, especially in the moments when kids need you the most.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's often when they're having a tantrum or they're frustrated, they're screaming, they're angry, and you're like trying not to reflect that energy on them. Yeah. What they need the most in those moments is the calmest version of yourself, to just listen and be there.
Yeah.
It's the biggest, it's like the Olympics.
It really
is. So tough.
What's worked for me in those moments is just taking a deep breath, getting outside of the space, like literally leaving, breathing, and coming back in a completely different space. And this has taken so much conscious effort because, like you said, none of us have done this before. And we're talking about parenthood, relationships, marriage, all of it. And it's a lot. This human experience is a lot. But when you choose to do it consciously with awareness, it really is a beautiful ride. God, I could be talking to you forever. I have 3 questions for the end. Do you have anything to add before we get to those?
I don't think so.
Okay, this is so good. So Renée, future self question. So Renée, 20 years from today, what message does she have for Renée right now?
I'll be 40. Just joking.
Love that.
Okay, so Renée, 20 years from now, what question does she have?
Well, what message does she have for you today, for Renée today?
Oh God, this is like almost geriatric Renée.
What?
I feel like I'm putting myself in her, looking back at me, just sitting across the table, holding my hands.
Yes.
And just saying, this is what she's saying. She's saying, the most important people in your life are your family, so treat them like gold. Oftentimes our family gets like the leftovers. Why do we do that to our family? Yeah. Everyone else should get our leftovers, not our family. So that's what she's saying. She's also saying to eat more protein and lift heavier weights. And sisterhood is probably one of the most important relationships you're ever going to have.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Parenthood, this is a deeply meaningful role for you. What is one truth you hope your boys carry in their hearts because they felt it based on how you lived your life?
That they're just incredible human beings. They're so loved and that they deserve the best.
Yeah. Beautiful. And what does prosperity mean to you?
Prosperity means abundance and joy. And I just feel like prosperity is really about nature, because nature it just is like trees grow.
Yeah.
And they reproduce, they give seeds, there are more flowers, more trees are grown, animals graze, it causes, and like bees, they spread the love of flowers and pollinate. That's prosperity. Yeah. Prosperity is like nature, where your purpose of growth is to be able to shed the seeds for other things to grow.
So good.
You can go on Instagram, Renée_Warren. I also have my podcast, Into the Wild. And check out thepinkskirtproject.com for information on next year's event.
All right. Well, again, Renée Warren, thank you so much. Love you so mucho. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks for joining me on today's episode of the Prosperity Playground podcast. If this convo sparked something in you, be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts so you never miss your weekly activation. If you enjoyed the conversation, please rate and review. Your feedback helps us reach more souls just like you who are ready to calibrate to their most prosperous life. Know someone who needs this frequency boost? Share the episode to Instagram and tag me @_Anna Lozano so we can grow our energetically aligned community together. And please remember, true prosperity is about alignment, freedom, expansion, and embodying your worth today. See you on the next activation.